This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Let's keep it going here because I'm fascinated by, you know what, before we move on from Georgia, we teased a few weeks ago that we might have a fun Jim Barnett story, but we haven't told it. Jim Barnett is a guy who I think probably doesn't get enough credit for his contributions to the business and how powerful and important he was, because unfortunately it's just become a silly impression that everybody does. And I know you have a great one and I want to hear it, but the reality is once upon a time, he set Australia on fire and he's got points in Georgia here. And he is, I think Dusty once called him a power broker in professional wrestling. And obviously he's partnering with Ole for Georgia Championship Wrestling. But supposedly, you know, he's making a ton of cash in wrestling, has the big penthouse apartment, has a driver, has a Rolls Royce. He's living the good life. What can you tell us about Mr. Barnett that maybe we haven't discussed before here on the show?
Well, he's a very smart man. Okay. Very successful. And, you know, if I tell the story about Alex Wright, that is not acceptable in today's world.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing. There's been much said about Mr. Barnett's sexuality. He was a homosexual. This is a different time. These days, it's, you know, whatever. But once upon a time, it was whispered. It was a secret. It wasn't something you were supposed to talk about. And thankfully, we've evolved as a society, and that's no longer the case. But there were certainly, oh, I think he's sweet on so-and-so type talk about a lot of guys. And, you know, it's unfortunate that whenever anybody brings up Barnett, it always gravitates to one of those. But it's like, hey, man, the dude was making a fuck ton of money in wrestling. So he clearly knew what he was doing, right?
Oh, God, yeah. You know, nobody ever said Jim Barnett was not a brilliant businessman.
Right.
He had Ole doing the booking. He had Ole playing the hard ass. If Mr. Barnett was home watching TV and he saw something he didn't like, he'd say, Ole, about that so-and-so. Yes, Jim, fire him, fire his ass. Yes, Jim, and he'd fire him. Jim was the money guy. He was the power. He was the owner. Ole owned part of it. And Ole did the day-to-day booking, which he charged a booking fee. Now, this was just what I heard. But Ole was charging him like $250,000 a year to book, plus whatever he made wrestling was on top of that. And I don't know if he had points and got points paid as well, but Ole Anderson made a lot of money for a long time working with Jim Barnett.
Did you have any interaction with Mr. Barnett back here in your early days?
Well, it's, you know, for some reason, for a period of time when they were changing bosses, and I mean the very boss of Jim Hurd and all those guys, Jack Petrick and all the guys that had the big boss, you know, like, you know, with the exception of Kip Fry, I think it was his name, Kip Fry.
Yeah.
But they just noticed I'd been there a long time, and I kept hearing, you know, well, he's been here a long time. Maybe he needs to go somewhere else and all that. The problem with that is that's fine to have that conversation, but there was nowhere to go.
Right.
You know, when it was WCW, I had already been to the only other show in town to where I could make that money. And it was, maybe he needs to get out of here. He's been here too long. Well, we came up with this deal to where I was going to be Dustin Rhodes' partner against Bunkhouse Buck, Terry Funk. You know, remember that angle, right?
Yeah, of course.
And Jim came up to me and he was dead serious. And he sat down beside me and he crossed his legs and he leaned in. And I'd always been very respectful of Mr. Barnett from, you know, for a number of reasons. And he just went, I hope that thing works out for you, Arn. And it was so serious. And it was almost like, this may be your last chance because they don't see a lot in you. You're not flashy. You know, no one had realized that work rate mattered at that point. It was more about the bodies and the stories and the cartoon characters. I don't think they realized what a guy like myself or Bobby Eaton, and I hate to just brag on myself, but I was a journeyman. I could go out and I could make guys.
Yeah.
And just like Bobby Eaton, just like Brad Armstrong, a lot of guys, that you could make a match and make a guy and have a hell of a match with anybody. And I knew that when he said that to me, it was almost like, well, if this don't work, I don't know. It was sincere. It meant a lot to me, and I appreciated it.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at savewithconrad.com.